God has to separate you from your kingdom spouse. He has to separate you. You're probably wondering, why another separation again? This separation was not caused by the enemy. It was caused by God himself. God has to separate you from your kingdom spouse. For who this message for? Your kingdom spouse has a great calling upon their name. Your kingdom spouse has even answered this calling before, but it was too painful for them. The calling, the type of calling God has upon your kingdom spouse, it is big. Yeah, it is big. And so we all know when God called you to serve him, he must to first purify you. He must to first put you in the fire for purification. But for who this message for? Your kingdom spouse is too broken to handle that pain, so they end up dropping the calling altogether. And this happened when you guys haven't met yet. They tried. Since now they're gone way too deep into the world, God has been seeking their attention, but they are ignoring God. That's why God has raised you, for you to intercede for them, so that the communication can be easier between your kingdom spouse and God. But what I'm feeling, what God has been telling me, is that your kingdom spouse is taking you for granted. Your kingdom spouse feels like you cannot find no other partner like them, without knowing you are just being obedient. You are there because you are obeying God. You're just a servant. So it's not because of, oh, you cannot get someone else like them. No, you are just being obedient. And now they are taking that for granted. But one thing they forget to remember is that, oh Jesus, is that you are too precious to God to let them mishandle you. God has been warning your kingdom spouse multiple times. He has been saying, hey, don't play with that one. That is my baby. That is my chosen one. That's it. She or he is very special to me. Don't do it. They ignore this warning. And now God has to remove you. God has removed you so that he can humble your kingdom spouse. This separation, it is perfect for you. This is a message for someone. He has gone through separation with your kingdom spouse. God says it's not by the enemy. It is himself who separated you from your kingdom spouse. Even though your kingdom spouse knows that they are called to serve God, but since they are way deep into the world now, they even feel like they are too big to serve God. And sometimes for who this message for, yeah, whenever you bring up God's topic in a conversation, your kingdom spouse don't want to hear it. They don't believe in God no more. And one thing they have said to you is that why people who serves God, they are poor. Why people who serves God, they are always going through hardship, but people who don't, they live this luxurious life and they are happy. And for who this message for, your kingdom spouse is very prideful. Your kingdom spouse feels like everything they have, they got it by their own power, their own hard working, without knowing God is just still blessing them because, God want to use them. At the end of the day, God still loves them. They get blessed more when you guys are in contact with each other, when you are in their lives, or when they are in your life rather. As soon separation takes place, everything falls apart in their lives. But they're too prideful to admit it, They're too big, So God has to remove you. And this time around, trust me, God is angry. You see, we often talk about God's good side, but we never talk about his ugly side, his bad side. I swear to God, you don't want to experience that. We don't talk about God's angry side. And one thing I've learned about God is that he can be patient with you for years. But the moment he knows that he's trying to get your attention, he has been telling you something over and over again, like you have actually got his attention, and he know that you know what he's telling you to not to do, but you still choose to do because you think you are in power, you think he doesn't exist. Trust me, you don't want to experience that side of him. God is bringing judgment upon your kingdom spouse, and not all type of judgment. This is very, very serious. God has removed you into their life to show them again that, hey, I am calling you. Pick up the call. Pick it up where you stopped. I'm not done with you. I have a bright future for you. But first, I have to purify you. And if you can't handle that pain, I cannot use you. So that's why your kingdom spouse don't want to pick up that call. Your kingdom spouse is literally too broken to endure that purification. That is what God has been put in my spirit. God says, no. If you notice, wherever the attention is, they seek for that pleasure. Even if it's temporary pleasure, as long it makes them feel good that in that moment, they will go for it. They don't care about tomorrow. And God is tired of it. Now, don't get me wrong. God knows they are tired or they're broken. But trust me, whatever callings God has upon your kingdom spouse, they have to answer. That's the only option they have. The whole purpose of this message is that this separation, it was caused by God, because God want to use your kingdom spouse. They have a great calling upon their name, but they're too scared of the purification season. So now God has removed you, since they are taking you for granted. God has to remove you completely so that he can deal with them.